This episode is sponsored by the Keystone Trails Association. Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. Most people never know how much volunteer work goes into their favorite hiking trail. Countless hours are spent breaking trails, cutting back brush, moving rocks, building steps, preventing water erosion, and blazing trails. Then after the trail is built, even more hours are spent maintaining it. When wind knocks down trees, they need to be cleared. When invasive species develop, they need to be removed. When the painted blazes fade, they need to be repainted. Hundreds of hours can go into a single trail. Now imagine being responsible for maintaining hundreds of miles of trails throughout Pennsylvania. That's what the Keystone Trails Association does. Since 1956, KTA has worked hard to provide, protect, preserve, and promote recreational hiking trails and hiking opportunities in Pennsylvania. The volunteer-directed public service organization is made up of a federation of member organizations and individuals. 2024 marks the 40th year of the organization's Trail Care program. This incredible program helps maintain Pennsylvania's extensive system of hiking trails. They maintain trails like the Midstate Trail, Keiper Trail, Allegheny Front Trail, Loyalsock Trail, Standing Stone Trail, and a portion of the Appalachian Trail. KTA's motto of many hands make light work denotes the importance of volunteers giving back to their outdoor community. If everyone pitched in, even a little, they could move mountains. Without KTA and their volunteers, some of your favorite hiking trails would be unhikeable. Full stop. But KTA is much more than just a trail maintenance club. It also serves as a statewide voice of the hiking trail community and trail advocate at the state capitol. Through their advocacy, they brought primitive camping to state game lands, resolved trail conflicts, campaigned against illegal ATV use, and protected endangered hiking trails. KTA also hosts a number of amazing events that include trail races, hiking weekends, first aid classes, backpacking trips, webinars, guided hikes, and much more. These diverse events give both beginner and experienced hikers an opportunity to learn, grow, and travel. I'm most excited about their upcoming Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend from October 18th to the 20th in the Susquehanna Riverlands. During this 3-day event, participants will have the opportunity to go on hikes, take classes, tour the Susquehanna River, learn from outdoor experts, backpack, and so much more. This exciting weekend gives participants the chance to explore, learn, and connect in a stunning landscape. And I'm excited to announce that I'll be hosting a trivia and s'mores event at 8 p.m. on October 18th at the Susquehannock State Park Ballfield Pavilion. Come test your knowledge of Pennsylvania's parks, forests, trails, and waterways, or just grab a s'more. I'm thrilled to be taking part in this hiking and outdoor weekend and hope you'll join me. Be sure to visit kta-hike.org to register and sign up for individual events. I'm excited to welcome Brooke Linker and Haley Feaster to the podcast. Brooke is the executive director and Haley is the manager of communications and development at KTA. Brooke, Haley, thanks so much for joining the program.
Christian, thank you so much for having us.
Brooke, can you tell us about the Keystone Trails Association?
Keystone Trails, or what we call, we say KTA, was founded in 1956. And early in its history, it was involved with maintaining the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania. And over time, its mission has morphed somewhat. Although even to this day, we maintain a portion of the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania at Lehigh Gap. But our mission overall is to provide, protect, preserve, and promote hiking trails and hiking opportunities in Pennsylvania. And we have 5 sort of major program areas that address that.
Like you said, KTA is dedicated to protecting, promoting, preserving Pennsylvania's hiking trails. How does KTA do that?
One of the things we do is, and what we're best known for, I suppose, is trail care. We mobilize volunteers to work on hiking trails across the state, but especially in the north central part, what we know as the Pennsylvania wilds. And that's because there are a preponderance of trails in that region that are largely on state forest land. And we work closely with the Bureau of Forestry to take care of some of those iconic hiking trails, like, the Black Forest or the Keiper, the Donut Hole, some really great, and there's others, but some really great longer trails that provide both for day hiking venues as well as make for great backpacking trips. So trail care is led by two staff, Jen Ulmer and Al Gurman, um, who mobilize events like our trail crew weekends and 1 day trail care activities. Sometimes even larger events we call Trail Love weekends, where we do really important maintenance on some of those trails. In addition to our trail care program, we also work with trail clubs around the state, and we help support them in various ways. For example, we have a mini grant program to help keep those organizations vibrant and vital. And we help promote some other activities. We do a variety of things to work with our clubs. In addition, we also promote trails, and trail promotion is sort of a wide-ranging sort of bucket of our work, which includes things like selling maps and guides to many of the hiking trails in Pennsylvania, but also leading and coordinating activities, outings that get people out onto the trails. So whether that's our traditional spring hiking weekend, our Keystone hiking and outdoor weekend this fall, or a weekend we do in the Allegheny National Forest in the summer, or just 1 day hikes, or slack packs, or backpacks, all kinds of special programs to get really to introduce people to trails or to get them more comfortable on those specific trails. And so that's sort of our third area of our work. And then we also do some really cool training, whether it's like we're offering a wilderness advanced first aid class this coming November. Um, my colleague Haley puts together some really neat webinars on a variety of topics. So throughout the year, we have different learning opportunities, whether they're for, say, members of trail clubs or just hiking enthusiasts, or some of our trail maintainers. There's really kind of something for everyone. And then last but certainly not least, we also do advocacy, and we try to educate our members and followers about issues that affect hiking trails or affect the land, air, or water around trails. So we've been following a number of issues, and we try to mobilize our constituents as needed to address those issues and let their lawmakers know how they feel about things, or state agencies where if it's just like more of a regulatory or policy issue.
How do we promote, preserve, and protect the hiking trails? I think I've seen before KTA being dubbed as the voice of the Keystone hiker. And I think that's an excellent way to explain, how we try to communicate internally and externally to those following us or our members. So we do, I think it's a strong difference of, lobbying for issues and advocating for issues. We definitely like to get the pulse of how our members are feeling about issues that are affecting any level of hiker or hiking trail, and then try to be the voice and share that information.
Brooke, this year KTA is celebrating the 40th anniversary of its trail care program. How does it feel to run an organization that has such an incredible legacy of trail care in Pennsylvania?
There are people that have come before me at KTA that oftentimes their hiking accomplishments are really phenomenal. They're kind of legends. But beyond that, I mean, what some of these folks have given back to trails is amazing. I mean, to go out, and we're not just talking like a day, you're talking multiple days of working hard, and it's hard work, or it can be some tasks are more difficult than others. But I remember last year going out and helping on a trail care event, and I was just lopping, just what we call brushing a trail, and but just that tedious act of snipping and snipping and snipping for hours, upon end, it's tiring. And so these folks do it oftentimes, for 3 days at a stretch. Um, and they do that because they just love these places. Um, and they come back year after year. So there are a lot of new volunteers coming into our ranks, but there's a heck of a lot of folks that have been what I call like trail care veterans that, you know, come out to sometimes several trail care events each year and come back year after year. And so, yeah, there are names that um that longtime members bring up that say, what about this person or that person? And they have these memories of having worked beside them or hiked with them. And they they've just been engaged for a long time. So it's it is humbling because what they do is when you think they're doing it in a volunteer capacity, it's really impressive. They really care, and folks should be really thankful for when they hike a trail to think about the labor that goes into keeping it nice. It's significant.
How important are volunteers to the trail care program?
Oh, I think that they're huge. I mean, we couldn't do it without them. I mean, for the first time ever, KTA has paid trail care coordinators. Essentially, we have a manager of trail maintenance and training, and then we have a trail care coordinator for a portion of the state, the Pennsylvania Wilds. But prior to their tenure at KTA in those capacities, all that work was done by volunteers. And there's some names I could rattle off of people that for many years um, coordinated those events. So everything from where everybody was going to stay and what they were going to eat, to all the work that had to be done on the trail, to coordinating that work with, say, the local forest district or a state park manager or whoever it was. And so there's a lot of um, details, logistics that go into planning one of these events. And again, that had all been done by volunteers. So now some of that's done, or a lot of that, I should say, is done by these paid staff at that coordination level. But there are, but the volunteers then do, perform most of the labor. And, and there's lots of different tasks to do. Each trail care event is a little different in terms of what maybe the priorities are, but but it's a but it takes a lot of hands to get those tasks accomplished.
And speaking about numbers, this 40th season of Trail Care for KTA sure has been transformative. A report from our trail care manager, Jen Ulmer, building trails, skills, and friendship this 40th season of Trail Care at KTA. We have held 10 events and have 7 yet to go. Over these 10 events, we have had an average of 16 volunteers and combined 160 hours contributed. That includes both 1 and 2 day events.
I mean, that's really impressive. I was fortunate enough to be able to volunteer for the Michaud Trail Love Edition, and I was surprised by, yes, what I participated in was hard work, and breaking trail is always tough, but it's this sense of ownership you get after participating in, where you go, like, from now on, that I'm a part of this trail. If I cleared 10 feet, if I snip branches, if I, took away some of the soil, what I was able to do will be able to help other people and get to experience trails. I think that's really wonderful. That sense of ownership, that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the experience is feeling that pride in what you're doing. And I may have said this earlier, I think it's opening your eyes to what goes into a trail. And one of the things that I've been really impressed by are some before and after photos that Al Gurman on our staff has taken, and you really see the difference between uh, you know, what the trail looked like before, say, the crew came in, and then after, you know, that day or several days of work, you see, wow, this beautiful corridor. And it's the little things too. It's, you don't people don't like to hike where the brush is, the vegetation on the side of the trail is up against them all the time. They might be worried about ticks, or it's just like kind of more confining. I mean, conversely, folks maybe don't want a really wide trail too. I mean, sometimes it's not as cool of an experience, but that happy medium, when you're hiking along, it's just perfect. And some of the photo documentation of what's been accomplished at these activities really demonstrates that.
To help people understand, what sort of work is done by these volunteers on the trail care program, and do people need to be experienced in order to help?
I know the tasks can vary, but they include things like, in some cases, they may be actually cutting in new trail. Sometimes it's like what they call side hill work. So they're actually, kind of putting a trail, like digging a new tread for a trail. Uh, and there are specialized tools for some of that work that are pretty cool. That's part of the fun, to learn what some of those tools are. Things like Pulaski's and Hazel hose and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, but it can also be simply what we call brushing a trail, which is cutting back the protruding branches. It can be blazing, whether it's, I mean, there's an art to that, I should say. It's there's a way to do it well. And actually, Jen Ulmer on our staff is really good at blazing and likes to show her preferred techniques for doing so. But that's important, because if people get lost on a trail, they don't have fun. It's nice to know, yeah, you're on the right trail, and that may seem obvious, but it's not always. And especially where there's, junctions um, or bifurcations, or the trail split in two or something, you want to make sure you're on the right trail. Um, so those are three common things, but it could be cutting in drainage. I mean, in some cases, some of the newer trails are getting away from things like water bars, but in some cases, there's, remedial work needed to to address drainage issues on the trail. There's like several different techniques that sort of topic involves. And of course, one of those things could be just bridges and bridge work. And that makes me think of some of the like larger construction projects that may have some, engineering involved or something. But and oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes that might be led by, an agency,
Mm-hmm.
or a cooperating organization like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, if it's on, say, the AT. But oftentimes in those cases, we're also assisting. So there's lots of different experiences that are encompassed with when we say the words trail care.
Yeah, I think the main thing for people to understand is that not every job is brute force. Sometimes it's being able to do what your ability allows you to do. And I went into the Michaud event not knowing anything, and we were able to meet with people that did know what we were supposed to be doing, and they taught us well, and they showed us what tools we were to use safely. I think that's really great, is that it's not just shoving people into the role and being like, good luck. It's definitely making sure everyone's learning something and being able to do it safely.
I once heard Brooke say that trail care is the backbone of KTA, historically, and that remains the case today. And that wouldn't be able to be possible without all of our volunteers who come out and make trail care possible. And from firsthand experience, or anyone else who has participated in a trail care activity, you'll never experience a trail the same way. You start noticing things, like any work that might need done, and forecasting, how was this done, so it's a really cool experience, and I definitely recommend trail users to try to get out there and maintain their trail, or find out who their local trail club is, and just didn't end up there, so you start to ask a lot of questions.
How can people become involved in the trail care program?
You can become involved at KTA's trail care program. I think the best way is by visiting our website or our Facebook. We stay current, and we do try to post the trail care schedule at the beginning of the year so you can plan out what you're able to make and not make. And something else to note about our trail care is if it's a multiple day trail care event, you are able to come for just a day or a half day or whatever suits your schedule. We understand that folks sometimes don't have their whole weekend to volunteer, but we do welcome and ask that you're able to join us when you can. But the KTA website, as well as our Facebook, would have the trail care schedule linked.
KTA is one of 30 clubs that maintains the Appalachian Trail. Brooke, what section does KTA help maintain?
We take care of a section at Lehigh Gap, so north of Allentown, and it's a beautiful section. There's some dramatic views of the Lehigh River, the Lehigh Valley to the south. And what's really interesting about that area is its history. Of course, it was a very industrial corridor at one point. I mean, there were active rail lines along the Lehigh River, but very sort of interestingly, there at the town of Palmerton, there was a zinc smelter that operated for many years, and that process basically contaminated the emissions, contaminated the mountain.
Oh, wow.
And the community, but that led to basically the forest to die on the mountain, and the soils were contaminated, and it became a Superfund site. So the remediation has gone on for many years, and it's resulted not only in a successful sort of environmental comeback story, but it also created a pretty unique plant community. So in those soils now on that part of the ridge, they're high in metals, and there are certain plants that can they can thrive or at least do okay in that environment, and others that can't. So the forest community is, they use a lot of warm season grasses, a lot of pitch pine, some other forbs and things that give it kind of this almost more like savanna-like experience. So if you're used to the green tunnel that they talk about sometimes in Pennsylvania, where you're hiking through the dense forest, this creates sort of a variation on that some people really enjoy. Plus, there's some nice rocky outcroppings where you can enjoy some really nice vistas. And then there are side trails that create opportunities to do loop hikes and those kinds of things. So, and if you're a through hiker, you can leave the AT and hike north or south into Palmerton to the north, or some other communities just to the south, and resupply and enjoy a hot meal, etc.
What kind of trail work needs to be done to keep that stretch of trail open and accessible to hikers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some of the same types of things that I was describing earlier when we talk about the trail care experience. It's those trails need brushed. Occasionally, they need reblazed. Sometimes there might be some special signage that's added. I mean, because it's a national scenic trail, there are some waysides, like some interpretive waysides by the parking area. We have that because the Appalachian Trail gets so much use, and that is a popular trailhead at Lehigh Gap. Some of the maintenance has involved actually the parking lot. I mean, too, just physically, putting some new gravel there and those kinds of things. I mean, we get help from the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and the National Park Service, but that there were some potholes that we were dealing with last season, as my car can attest to. But yeah, I mean, but generally speaking, it's some of the same kinds of things. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier that is a whole sort of specialty in and of itself is rock work, is actually doing steps and doing sometimes it might be other could have to do with a water feature or crossing a water feature. But there are people that are really good with doing rock work, and to do it right so that the rocks don't wobble, or they're anchored well in place and that kind of thing, or they fit together in an artistic and structurally sound way. There is a real art and science to doing that kind of work. And there's even specialized equipment that there are things like called rock bars, but there's also sometimes they get into using pulleys and things that help move heavy rocks into place. So that's kind of a specialty, I guess you could call it. And yeah, and thankfully within the greater KTA community and some of our partner organizations, there's some good expertise with that.
I'm also impressed with how quickly people can work when there's down trees. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many trail stewards that are out there that a tree goes down and in a day that thing is split in half and taken care of and make sure that the trail is available. Because I mean, down trees after a real bad storm, especially the AT where there's obviously trees and a lot of forest and things like that. I'm always impressed by how quickly things are getting taken care of.
You astutely point out that, or indirectly point out, I guess, that I didn't mention sawyering. I mean, that's a whole other skill set, but it's also another job of trail maintainers is to clear down trees. And unfortunately, that is becoming a greater and greater need because, um, well, in part thanks to climate change, we have probably um, a greater diversity and um, and greater volume of forest pests that some are exotic and definitely invasive, and they things like the emerald ash borer come to mind, the hemlock woolly adelgid. It goes the list goes on. But um, those organisms uh, can kill our trees, various species of trees, and then they come down. Um, and then there are other things that affect other species. But again, some of that is related to climate change for sure. These trees are getting stressed from uh, excessive heat and drought, um, and then you add the pests to the mix. And the point is that we have more tree fall, I would say, than we used to. So there are some places that's really problematic because they block the trail. And it's one thing if you hike along and all there's one obstacle, but it's different when you're constantly having to navigate obstacles. So staying ahead of that or being responsive to when those situations arise is really important. We haven't perfected it, but we do try to be responsive.
I know KTA works hard to create and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive outdoor community. Why is that important to KTA?
It is important to KTA, again, going back to being the voice of the Keystone hiker and being inclusive to what that encompasses to all that wish to explore and enjoy the great trails of the Commonwealth.
I think it's really important that everyone knows that they're welcome on trails, no matter where they are. Um, I mean, my observations are that trails are being used by more and more diverse users. I think people from every community in the Commonwealth get out at times and enjoy trails, but I still think there are fears about safety from some communities of users. I think it's important that KTA as an organization helps break down those barriers to participation. Maybe it's providing both informal and formal learning opportunities um, to learn more about what's out there. Because if you weren't as exposed to it, if you weren't somebody else didn't introduce you to nature, uh, not everybody's had those experiences. You may not understand, you know, how this animal can be harmful, or maybe you don't even know that animal doesn't even exist in our woods, but it might be someplace else. But just some things that some of us probably take for granted. We have to realize that not everybody has had those same experiences. So, or educational opportunities. So, so helping eliminate those barriers. I mean, I know there's a lot of attention, and rightfully so, around physical access. I mean, making sure that communities have linkages so that if I live, over there, I can get over here to this cool trail. But um, a lot of our work traditionally, and maybe this will, could morph a little bit over time, but it is on more of these traditional hiking trails, which what makes a traditional hiking trail is probably changing a little bit too. There's a lot of emphasis now on shared use trails. So it's more efficient, I suppose, if you're going to make a trail, make it also available to cyclists or equestrians. I think there's a difference though between motorized and non-motorized trails.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think of shared use trails, I'm typically thinking about sharing it with other non-motorized users. But nonetheless, back to this point of sort of this connection issue. I mean, I think that rightfully so, there's more interest in making these physical connections, but then I think too, it's making these intellectual connections or breaking down those intellectual barriers to participation. And it's not all on the user too. It's not all on the person that wants to go out and experience a trail. It's also on, obviously land managers, but also other users to make sure people feel welcome. I heard some really interesting stories. I heard this talk. It was a Black woman that was actually an angler, and she had this great presentation about you know, how she was being treated by other anglers, and that they were making all these false assumptions about her, that she didn't have experience like they did. And yet the funny thing was she was a really accomplished angler. She had been written up in a magazine, and their jaw dropped when they realized who she was. It was really cool, but really neat story. But that kind of thing certainly happens on trails too. We make assumptions about people or something. So so existing hikers need to be better ambassadors for the trails that they enjoy and welcome other users onto them. And then organizations like ours can try to be a sort of almost like an intermediary in terms of doing all we can do institutionally to change the paradigm, and then helping and certainly encouraging communities or our land management partners to try to help us develop new trail opportunities too, as is feasible.
I think that KTA does a great job of offering any level of hiker an opportunity to get out and enjoy and have a great experience. At our different hiking weekends that we'll host, there's an opportunity for you to be able to get out and do a nature walk that's a more of a peered situation, to your 6-8 miles in a day. So we're really trying to give an opportunity for any skill level. And, one of our really cool events that we offer is for the day hiker looking to break into backpacking. So call it a supported backpacking trip, if you will. It's a KTA Slack pack, and we have 2 of those coming up this year, that will be able to, if you would like to go and stay at a lodge, stay at a campground, we're able to shuttle you from different portions of the trail. And then at the end of 3 days, you've completed half of a major trail of Pennsylvania. We're lucky in Pennsylvania to have access to these multiple major through trails, and we want to be able to offer the opportunity for any skill level to get out there and experience it. So again, on the promotion piece, offering those different opportunities.
In October, KTA is hosting the Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend. What can you tell us about the 3-day event running from October 18th to the 20th in 2024?
We're super excited about this Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend. It's kind of a variation on something we do each year. So traditionally, Keystone Trails Association has a fall hiking weekend. And I think because of, well, there's just so many positive things happening around outdoor recreation in Pennsylvania right now. There's a big emphasis on the outdoor recreation economy. There's lots of new users discovering uh, public lands, discovering trails. And so I guess in one way, we want to capitalize on that. But we also realize that there's so much benefit. And some of it comes back to some of our earlier parts of our conversation. There's so much benefit into introducing more people to these trails in any given area. Having local experts kind of guide people is a great way to get to know a trail. I mean, the other thing is too, we want people to be more accepting of other recreationalists, especially other trail recreationalists, but not exclusively. And that goes for even some of our, longtime members or, the inner KTA circle. We think it's beneficial to maybe get to know some cyclists or get to experience cycling if you haven't a lot, to appreciate it. We have a lot more in common with some of these other user groups than we have differences. And I suppose there's some lesson there for like greater societal life, but it is really important, I think, within that the more sort of recreational solidarity that we can build can really have benefit. And it does sort of create a sense of community, or it builds off of that. So I think with some of those things in mind, we thought, wow, what a great opportunity to like kind of change up our model a little bit for that fall weekend and look more outwards toward the community, to partners that are already doing some really amazing things, and work together to build an event that is somewhat unique, especially for Keystone Trails Association, and maybe a little bit of an experiment, but we're excited about it. And so the model we created is this Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend, which is really special in a number of ways. So one, it's in the Susquehanna Riverlands, which is what we call a conservation landscape that is originally, I guess, denoted by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. But that Susquehanna Riverlands is that area along the lower Susquehanna River Gorge that is largely, not exclusively, but largely in York and Lancaster counties. And so we'll have activities that will go during this weekend that will span from sort of the northern parts of that corridor the whole way almost to the Maryland border. And we're looking, roughly at the river proper, but some of the activities could be a few miles away into those respective counties. But it's also a decentralized model for an event. So rather than have like everybody comes to a hotel or a central location, and then our hikes or activities like spur out from there, we'll have this menu of things happening that'll be all over that corridor. You can come for a day, you can come for the whole weekend, including Friday, from like noon on, and you pick which activities you want to participate in. And they're not just hikes, they are bike rides, they are trail runs, they are rock climbing, they are fishing demonstrations, they are hands-on stewardship activities, cleanups, those kinds of things. There's this whole assortment, and I should say too, learning opportunities. So there's this assortment of things happening, and you pick and choose, and we build it totally in collaboration with these local partners, Lancaster Conservancy, Lower Susquehanna River Keeper, DCNR's Bureau of State Parks, just a whole slew of, Mason-Dixon Trail Association or Trail System, and so on and so on. And so those organizations working with us, developed a schedule, and it's just this kind of, cornucopia of opportunities. We do have, even though it's decentralized, KTA will be hanging its hat at the Columbia Crossing River Trail Center in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be our own hub for both sort of our operations desk for the weekend. We also do have some of our more traditional KTA events there, like our award program, our trail council meeting, some things happening on Saturday. But stuff's going to be happening all over that corridor. And then on Saturday night, we're going to have a big anchor event at the Burning Bridge Tavern in Wrightsville. And we have a famous author coming to town from Oregon, but he's originally a Pennsylvanian. His name's Tim Palmer. He's written a whole bunch of books about rivers and trails. Really interesting guy. And we're jazzed to bring Tim back to his home state and have him kind of anchor that event that evening. But that reception will be a lot of fun. But I think the whole weekend is going to be fun. We'll have camping opportunities at Susquehannock State Park, but we also, want folks to patronize the local businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, and so forth. So we're hoping both for a local audience, but very much also a bringing people in from outside the area, whether it be from other parts of Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, New York, wherever. We welcome them. And I think underscoring that is that our title sponsor is Explore York. So the event's really brought to everyone by Explore York, and we're excited to have them as a major sponsor.
We're so excited to be in the Susquehanna Riverlands and highlighting all of the natural recreational assets of the region. Here at KTA, we do represent such a huge state when it comes to recreational assets. Susquehanna Riverlands is just one of our designated landscapes. And we do hope that this choose your own adventure model can be replicated, upcoming in the state. We were in Johnstown, Pennsylvania last fall, and we're definitely looking to keep this momentum moving and to be able to expose the members and followers of KTA to other partners. So if you like hiking, you might like this, you might like bird watching, you might like just a continued educational experience for our trail users in one of our designated landscapes. I do want to jump in and talk about some of the really fun events that we have coming up. So that are just a little different to the KTA audience, but I think going to be very entertaining. We have these are just a few. Principles of Foraging hosted by DCNR. We have Fly Fishing 101 by a local fly shop, TCO Fly Shop. We have Twilight Yoga on the Susquehanna hosted by Black Cat Yoga. We have a guided bird walk by Lancaster County Bird Club and Bike Packing 101. Yes, I said that correctly. Bike Packing 101 by a local bike shop, The Common Wheel. And, I'm so excited for trivia and s'mores hosted by Christian at Hemlocks to Hellbenders. So we're really excited that you'll be activating with us and doing some state park trivia.
Yeah, I want everyone to be prepared. I'm bringing out the big guns for this trivia. I mean, obviously we're gonna have s'mores, we're gonna have fun, but I'm gonna have some good questions. Some state park, some state forest, some trail, maybe a little bit of history, maybe know your state icons.
So study up. Everyone should study up. Study up your
Absolutely.
state parks. We have quite a few. So get your passport out and let's go. And so we'll be doing that at Susquehannock State Park. A lot of our programming will be there. We also have tent camping available. So thank you again to DCNR and our partnership at Susquehannock State Park. So you are able to stay at the campground with us during Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend. And as well, we'll also have lodging listings available in both Lancaster and York counties.
Brooke, as much as I love a good hiking weekend where there's, a schedule listed where it says, you have this opportunity to go on these sort of hikes, this choose your own adventure model is so fun to me. I'm so excited about this concept. Are there any activities you're excited about, or is there anything that you're seeing on the schedule that you're like, oh, I really want to participate, or I can't wait for people to kind of check that out?
Wow. there's a whole lot. And I think many of them sound exciting to me. Of course, I'll probably be so busy with
Yeah.
various tasks that weekend. I may not get to enjoy it like everyone else, but that's okay. That comes with the job. But I think it's fun. We have a bike ride with Dr. Nathan Rigner, who's Pennsylvania's Director of Outdoor Recreation. So that's pretty neat that he's actually leading an activity for us. And it's a bike ride on the Anola Low Grade Trail, which is a phenomenal bike path. And it has a trestle over the Conestoga River that's um, really, just just its scale and the vantage it gives of the river is really impressive. And then that ride will go far enough too that it goes to the second trestle um, over Peckway Creek, and that too is high above above the surrounding land. So it's really neat. It's a great ride, and only that much greater because somebody that's super knowledgeable about outdoor recreation in this great state is leading it. So that's a special opportunity for whoever signs up for that. I hope they appreciate that chance. And I think, again, there's just so much on the agenda that's cool. But I think what's really worth underscoring too is this is a really affordable event for people. Where we have a small registration fee um, that just kind of locks you into whatever you want to do for the weekend. I mean, there are a few activities that do have an extra charge because of, either they're sort of specialized and require some equipment or some special instruction. But the majority of the activities are at no extra cost. We even have scholarships available. And I mean, many of those are available too. So people don't, no questions asked. If somebody feels like they just don't have the means to do this, but they really want to participate, they just check the scholarship box and it's free. Oh, and you want to bring your family? Well, folks under 18 are free. So we're breaking down, literally breaking barriers to participation, um, breaking those down and trying to make this as welcoming event as possible.
Just underscoring that it's a great opportunity to get a little taste of something that you might have not grown up having any exposure to. I'm really excited. I hope to check out the fly fishing 101. Like, I have never dabbled. Could I check it out and totally be addicted? Potentially. Could I say, all right, did it? I don't need to do that again? Perhaps. But with this low barrier to entry, it's definitely, like Brooke was saying, a great way to try it out without investing hundreds of dollars to figure out, oh, I love it, or I never need to do this again.
I was thrilled to find out that this was going to be hosted in Susquehanna Riverlands, not only because it's pretty close to where I live, but also with the diversity of programs and activities you have, this feels like a perfect place to have it. When your team was kind of coming up with this idea, what stuck out to you about Susquehanna Riverlands? What made it be a place that you want to host this?
I think I concur with your your assessment. Like, wow, what a great place for this. A it's kind of, not that it's not a big area, but it's kind of a nice compact corridor loaded with all these great places, great destinations, venues for the various recreations. And, I'm from central Pennsylvania. I grew up in the like Harrisburg, Hershey area. And I still, live in central PA. But it wasn't until maybe 15 years ago that I really started discovering what's down in that part of the state. And now I think it is being discovered. I'm sure, the local people will say, hey, we're seeing a lot of interest, and that's not by mistake. That's because of all the fantastic groundwork that's been led by various organizations like the Susquehanna, you know, National Heritage Area, Lancaster Conservancy, and some of the other organizations I've already mentioned. But um, and certainly Department of Conservation and Natural Resources needs a big shout out too for the fact that they manage a lot of lands down there. They've added to their portfolio of state parks, all kinds of stuff, cool stuff happening. And I guess that's what I'd like to underscore is that area is just so neat. There are all these preserves, some of it from former power company lands that have been turned either acquired or turned over to organizations like the local conservancy, um, or um, or there are new DCNR lands that have been set aside. There are some phenomenal trails. I mean, so I mentioned the Anola low grade bike path, but there's also that um, very popular or growing in popularity, Northwest River Trail. But there are great hiking trails, the Conestoga Trail, maintained by the Lancaster Hiking Club. Um, there's the Mason-Dixon Trail. I think it's our only trail in the state that goes out of the state and then comes back in it again. It's a really neat trail. It's very rugged, and that's thanks to the Mason-Dixon Trail System, which is an organization, but also the York Hiking Club, and I'm sure I'm missing some other maintainers too. But yeah, I mean, you got trails, you've got great preserves, great parcels of public land. You have all the ingredients, and how dare I not say a incredible river too, largest river on the east coast of the United States. So I think those ingredients and the communities like Wrightsville, like Columbia, like Marietta, list goes on. They make that place really special. And so I'm kind of like, hey, let's help the regional organizations showcase this to the state, and let's build that culture of stewardship. Yeah, it's about outdoor recreation, but let's all be conservationists first, and care for the places that we also enjoy. Um, I think it has the right ingredients, and I know that me and the KTA team are really glad that we can kind of perfect this model. We sort of started it in the fall, as Haley mentioned earlier, in Johnstown, fall last year. But this is just continuing to sort of adapt the model, and I think this is a really great place to have this.
While this weekend includes new activities like boat tours and yoga and bike rides, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to hike. What are some of the hikes that you're excited about that are going to be taking part that weekend?
So, Christian, I think there's a lot of great hiking opportunities sort of plugged into this 3-day event. Um, there's going to be outings on the Kelly's Run Preserve by the Lancaster Conservancy. There's going to be hikes on the Mason-Dixon Trail by the Mason-Dixon Trail System and the York Hiking Club. Um, and then there's DCNRs leading some hikes. I mean, there's just a lot of different things happening on these various trails in that corridor. And Haley, I know, has some additions too to that list.
So how fun. We have both a dusk hike and a moonrise hike. So we have a dusk hike on the schedule hosted by DCNR, that they're saying is the best time to see wildlife such as turkeys, bats, and owls. And then we also have, hosted by the Mason-Dixon Trail System, we have a moonrise hike scheduled as well. So a little bit for the night owl or the morning bird.
I'm excited about the learning opportunities available during the hiking and outdoor weekend. What are some of the topics people can learn about if they attend?
Also hosted by DCNR, we're doing principles of foraging. So learn the basic principles of safe, ethical, and legal foraging for edible and wild food. Yeah, I think a program to mention for sure is one hosted by the Lancaster Conservancy entitled Learning Where to Go Outside. The Lancaster Conservancy protects more than 10,000 acres and 50 preserves. There are so many choices to get outside, but where do you even start? You can start with this presentation that highlights the land the Lancaster Conservancy protects and will include information about where to go to find outdoor experiences you're looking for. I think that encompasses the general premise of the whole weekend. So we're doing kind of a visual presentation on assessing a trail. So assessing what trail work might need to be done with our trail care manager, Jen Ulmer. So giving a brief overview of just visualization of what needs done on this trail. This hike, led by Jen Almer, will give you trail eyes from the vantage point of those who maintain the trails.
And that's perfect, especially for people who are interested in volunteering and doing trail work. You can learn a lot more from somebody who's been doing it for years. So that's really cool too. Where can people go to learn more about the event?
If you would like to learn more about the Keystone Hiking and Outdoor Weekend this October, please go to kta-hike.org.
Brooke, KTA is funded in part through yearly membership. What does it mean to be a member of the KTA, and how does membership help KTA?
Membership's really important to our operations. I mean, our funding is somewhat diverse in terms of the sources, whether it's grants or other donations, but the members are kind of the backbone. Their annual support means a lot to us. It helps really enable a lot of what we do, and plus they're really well plugged into all the different things we offer throughout the year. And members also enjoy discounts on our trail guides and maps that we sell online and in our Mechanicsburg location.
And as a member, I just want to say I'm so excited to be associated with the organization and everything that you guys do. So thank you so much for your effort. I think it's great to have an organization like you to be able to help people that love the outdoors and love hiking on trails, because a lot of people just think these trails appear magically and you just see it and they're maintained by random people that nobody have ever heard of. But they're people that work in every single industry that you could think of and come from all different backgrounds. And I just love KTA. I love the fact that you guys do so much and then you help so many people. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you do.
Well, thank you, Christian. I think the admiration's mutual. We really appreciate your podcasts and what you do. And I remember fondly the first hike. One of my early hikes in my tenure at KTA, and you joined that hike, and I got to know you. And yeah, and it was sort of indicative of like how the magic happens on the trail, right? We meet cool people. We all, everybody has fun typically, and we get to experience neat places. And yeah, it's the people and the places really make my job cool, and I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo what Brooke just said. And, as the director of communications, I want to thank you for getting out there as a content creator and sharing the beautiful assets of Pennsylvania to anyone who wishes to explore and connect. You're making a lot of what's happening visible to folks who have never had the opportunity to experience it. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you're doing.
Well, aw shucks, guys. Isn't this a nice little love fest?
Oh.
Aw. Where can people go to learn more and become a member of KTA?
You can check us out on our Instagram at Keystone Trails, or you can go to our website at kta-hike.org.
Brooke, Haley, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
Thank you, Christian. It's a real pleasure.
I want to thank my guests, Brooke Linker and Haley Feast, for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohellbenders@gmail.com. Or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. If you're a Pennsylvania business interested in advertising with the podcast, email us at hemlockstohellbenders@gmail.com. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.